Is the world a more dangerous place today?
My simple answer would be yes, I think it is. I think, unfortunately, this very obvious statement by Donald Trump makes a statement not just to the Assad regime, but to the world as a whole. And I think it's not just coincidental, certainly in terms of, obviously, the Chinese premier being a state visitor at this particular time, that it could coincide. It could be coincidental, but I'm not sure whether necessarily it is.
I actually have a little different opinion. I think it was probably influenced by King Abdullah of Jordan, having been there and when the attack actually took place, and how they are really united to really making the world a bit safer.
It's very interesting you say that, Jan, because I noticed in Trump's statement overnight he made particular reference to the refugee crisis and the instability in the region. So it's interesting, Jordan has taken such a huge number of refugees, hasn't it?
They have, and we're willing to give them a lot of money. And I think that also the fact that there is such a good relationship, I mean, a really respectful relationship between King Abdullah and Trump, which really was quite evident. But I think that what he did, because he does not want to get us into war. He does not want our allies to join him in terms of having any of our people at risk. It was the fact that he took the moral mantle for human rights, because this, to him, was an affront against babies and children.
I think you say, though, Jan, he doesn't want to get your country into war, but I think people watching today, that will be the fear, won't it? It's
it
like,
will.
What happens now? Where's this going to go? Will there be retaliation? Will Russia get involved? And people are frightened.
See, I was thinking as well, Will, is this his Thatcher moment? Is this his Falklands moment? I mean, because, fairness, Jan, since he's been elected, approval ratings have been on the slide for 60-odd Tomahawk missiles to be fired. 6 casualties, 6 deaths.
Exactly, which I think says a lot about the surgical precision of this particular strike. And this is actually the numbers that are coming from the Assad regime as well. This is not independent figures coming from elsewhere. They have a vested interest to potentially claim a higher casualty count. So I think, in terms of the attack itself, I think it was successful. I think it was necessary. But I do think it has big implications.
Will, just explain to people why that was the target.
OK, well, from local intelligence, and various intelligence have been gathered by various different assets, and this is from a variety of places, including on the ground. They determined that 3 previous launches had taken place from this particular airbase.
Of chemical attacks.
Of chemical attacks. But fundamentally removes that power to be able to launch.
Fired the chemical weapons. He's been called out on this before, and it's not been him.
I think it's pretty safe to say it was.
OK. Jan, interesting this. As a Trump supporter, this is exactly what he wasn't supposed to do. He was the man that said, America, we are not going to be the policeman of the world.
Well, exactly, except for this was a human rights violation, and it is chemicals, and it really puts a lot of other countries at risk. We just don't know. So if it wasn't Syria, and who did it, well then, does that mean there are going to be other countries? I think that he took a very strong stand because it was a chemical attack.
Here's what I think we're all worried about. He's hacked off Russia with this one.
Yeah.
The Chinese president was in the US when he actually pressed the button on all of this one. This is more than a veiled threat towards North Korea as well, is it not? Where does this leave us in terms of world affairs now?
Well, I think on one level it leaves a very clear statement that Trump won't tolerate these kind of actions. And I agree with Jan that in terms of human rights violations, and particularly we've seen this for some considerable time in Syria, you know, we mustn't forget that the US and the UK have been involved in airstrikes since 2013. So we've been there already for quite some significant time. However, those attacks have been against Islamic State, Al-Nusra Front and Al-Qaeda and some of the more fractious rebel groups. This is the first strike actually against the Assad regime. And I think it's fundamentally got to that stage where Obama had been constantly setting the red line that obviously the Assad regime shouldn't cross. They have, you know, Assad regime has crossed that line now.
What about,
and he had to make this statement.
Britain, Will? Because a number 10 spokesman, not Theresa May, but a spokeswoman rather, has said the UK government fully supports the US action. So where does that leave us now? What happens next?
Well,
and do we have to go along now with what Donald Trump does next?
Well, it doesn't mean that we have to necessarily go along, but it does show that we're aligned to it. So the various individuals that are out there right now saying that this was illegal...
I wonder where we asked.
I think we probably were.
I think we're probably told. What do you think, Jan?
I don't think I think we were told here, but I don't think we were asked because I don't think he wants to engage other people. And you know, you brought up about his approval rating. I mean, I knew Hillary Clinton was going to lose. It had nothing to do with approval. In fact, when she was running, the Obama statistic was they liked him, but anywhere between 65 to 72% of the public thought the country was going in the wrong direction. Now, 45% of the country thinks we're going in the right direction.
Is another war the right direction?
Well, we're making an assumption, is this another war? This was a strategic strike, and I think we need to take it for that, and we need to see what the next step is going to be. Because I don't believe that Trump wants to get us into another war.